3 days and 7 picks, and the Patriots have their draft class of 2012. Here to discuss it with me is Erik Frenz, the AFC East blogger for Bleacher Report. Erik, first off, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, before we get into the Patriots, what are your thoughts on the draft class of the AFC East? Jets, Dolphins, Bills, how did they do?
I like the Bills draft class, actually. I think, and we'll get to the Patriots in a minute, but I think the top two classes in the AFC East, it's 1 and 1A between the Bills and the Pats. I think the Bills did a great job addressing their needs. They really needed depth on the offensive line and grabbing 2 offensive tackles. Cordy Glenn was projected a first-round pick, and they were able to get him right around the middle of the second round, so they got good value there. And I really like their defensive backs. They got one early, Stephon Gilmore, and that was a really good addition. I think they'll definitely need to find a way to cover the Patriots receivers, so finding an answer for Tom Brady and company was a good pick. I like the fact that they really addressed the needs, the depth at the key positions that they lacked last year. The only head scratcher for me was T.J. Graham, the wide receiver they drafted in the 3rd round. I felt like they might have been able to get him later. He was a guy who was projected as a 7th round pick, perhaps even an undrafted free agent, but he ran one of the fastest 40 times at the combine. He has a 16.7 yards per reception in college, so definitely an explosive guy. They lacked that in their receiving core. I like their pick, and other than that, I mean, I think the Jets and the Dolphins both kind of grabbed some boomer bust guys. I mean, with Copels, it's a question of his motor. Is he going to give you 100% every down? I mean, you might not need 100% every single snap. You might only need it when you need it, but you don't want a guy out there who's only given 50% because that really opens you up for a big play. And I think with the Ryan Tannehill pick, I think that pretty much this entire draft class for the Dolphins rides on that one pick. So we'll see how they did. I think that they made some solid picks elsewise from the 1st round, but I think that ultimately they will be remembered or forgotten based on those 2 picks.
All right, turning our attention to the Patriots. They got their 7 players, started the day with only 6 picks, and as expected, they made some trades, but to start it off, they surprised everyone by trading up twice. Your thoughts on the 2 first-round picks, Chandler Jones and Donta Hightower? In
terms of Chandler Jones, his upside is huge. I love the fact that they went after a pass rusher. I think that was really a position they needed to find fits. He's an athletic guy. He's got a lot of similar traits to Jason Pierre-Paul, so that'll give Patriots fans a lot to be excited about. And I think that it might not be instant gratification with him, but I think down the line you'll look back and you'll say this might be the best pass rusher taken in this draft. And in terms of Donta Hightower, it's interesting because I look at him as a more athletic version of Brandon Spikes. He can give you a little bit more maybe in the pass rush than Spikes can, but I think that ultimately what that pick does is it gives them a lot more flexibility in their defense, in the linebacking core especially. They can move those guys around. Spikes, Mayo, and Donta Hightower are all versatile guys, can play pretty much all over that linebacking core, and I think it's interesting to see what they can do with so many movable chess pieces on that defense.
Moving on, let's look at the day 2 picks. There were 2 guys, Trayvon Wilson and Jake Beckett. And of course, we move on to the next day. Let's look at those next 2 days of drafting. Out of those remaining 5 players, who's the player that you think will surprise this year?
Personally, I really like the Nate Ebner pick, and I know a lot of people really aren't as high on it.
Me included.
Yeah, well, that's all right. That's why we're here. But he's athletic. He's fast. He had a great pro day. He's got the stamp of approval from Mike Vrabel, having played at Ohio State in that defense. And I think that you look at him as a guy who's dedicated and who's physical and who really doesn't mind doing whatever it takes to contribute to the team. He was a walk-on at Ohio State for football, and he was able to earn some snaps, at least, on defense just from his dedication to the team and from playing special teams and from doing all the little things that you ask of a football player. And that's what Belichick feels like he has here. He has a physical guy who's willing to do what it takes to get on the field, and just judging by his quotes after he was drafted, I mean, he said whatever it takes, I'm going to be hitting people for the rest of my life until my body can't take it anymore. So I thought that was a really promising thing to hear from somebody that he is dedicated to making an impact in the NFL. And who knows? It may not be an immediate reward. He's a sixth-round pick, so you might end up spending a year on the practice squad, or maybe he'll be just a special teamer in his first year. But you got to like a guy who is that much dedication to his team and to his sport. So I like that pick. But I think that'll be one of the more underrated picks. And then I think really what people are gonna remember about this draft is the Alfonso Dennard pick. I think that was, here's a guy who was projected as a second-round pick, and then, the worst possible time to get in trouble with the law and beat up a police officer. But I think that, there's the potential there for him to be a really good player, and he might be kind of a head case at first at least, but if he can fall in line, that's a huge steal. And if he doesn't fall in line, then you cut a seventh-round pick, and there's really no harm done.
Who from the third day caught your attention besides Ebner?
Well, I think the wide receiver from Northwestern, Jeremy Ebert, really is an interesting pick, because here you have another guy who is in a similar mold to Wes Welker. He's a short guy. He's about 5'11" or so, and he excels on those short to intermediate routes. And I think he's a guy who it'll be interesting to see how much playing time he gets, because they already have a few guys like that in Julian Edelman and obviously Welker. But I think that they see a value in that because their passing game is so based on the short to intermediate passing game, and it's based on guys who can, catch the ball short and create after the catch. I think that's really what their focus is on offense, especially now with Josh McDaniels back. I think that they feel like they need to find a few more guys who can do that for them in the event that maybe Welker isn't around, or if they move on from him next year, who knows? But I think that overall, Ebert has a solid chance at least to make the roster. He's not quite the special teamer that you'd like to see in the seventh round in terms of his potential to make the roster, but I think that there's the possibility there that he gets there. And I think that ultimately, going back to the Biquette pick, I think it's interesting to point out that he not only got 10 sacks after missing 3 games, but he did it in the SEC. So this is not a guy who's facing scrubs at the next level. He's facing guys who are going to be starting or potential backups at the NFL level. So he's a solid contributor. Patriots fans will remember the buzz around Matt Roth last year in the offseason and how the Patriots were projected to maybe go after him as a free agent. He does harken a lot back to Matt Roth in that he's a little bit longer in the arms though, which is good, because that was really the big knock on Roth, was that he didn't have that physical presence. He's 6'5", 274, a big guy, and as you said, a guy who can obviously set the edge for you against the run. And if he's not necessarily the pass rusher you want, at least he can create some disruption in the backfield. He's not the quick or agile type, but he's definitely a good fit, at least projection-wise, for that elephant spot that we were talking about earlier. So I like that pick.
Give me a grade for the Patriots draft class.
I'd go with an A-. I think I said at the beginning that I'd give them right around the same grade as the Bills. I think the Bills really hit a home run. I think the Patriots, they got that great value with the Dennard pick. They got 2 guys they really needed in their front 7. Actually, 3 guys they really needed in their front 7, in Biquette, in Jones, and in Hightower. The only real head scratcher was the Tavon Wilson pick, and we'll look back on that in a couple of years, and then we'll make our assessment. But for now, I feel confident giving them an A- for this draft.
Hi, Mark. It's been a while since the Patriots got a grade that high.
And to point out another thing, it's been a while since the Patriots came out of a draft with check marks in pretty much every single need. They usually don't draft as heavily for need as they did this year, and I don't think that they necessarily drafted for need. The board just broke down that way, and they ended up picking up players at pretty much every position of need. But typically speaking, when it comes to the Patriots, we're not talking about them addressing all their needs. We're talking about them finding good value. And I think that the fact that they were able to hit on all their needs without really, aside from the Wilson pick, without really making any head scratchers, I think that really says a lot about their strategy this year.
I definitely like the aggressive approach that they took to this year's draft. To me, I like to say they went from shopping at the job lot to shopping at Sears this year. They went out and got the good parts. So we'll see how well the Patriots draft class does in the coming months. They'll be going into mini camp, and we'll get a good look at them in the fall when training camp starts. But for now, for Erik Frenz from Bleacher Report, I'm Randolph Charlatan.